Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of another session of the Free Code Camp JavaScript algorithms and data structures certification. So today I'm going to finish off the basic section. I think we've got about 10 sections to go. I'm going to smash it out for you all. So last night I actually spent some time researching today because last night I got smashed by one of the problems, and I was approaching it completely wrong. And I've looked at why, and I've come up with why. I'm going to try to fix it tonight, and then we'll move on to the next challenge. So this challenge here we had last night was a profile lookup challenge where there was an array of objects, and the job is to basically look up the name, or you passed in a name variable, and what we're going to do is check that the property first name, if that equals name, if that is the name, then either return the other passed in property value that's passed into the function and return its values, or if that's not the case, then we'll return no such contact or no such property if they've got a name but they don't have a property passed in, or we can return no such contact if that name does not exist. Right. So last night I was trying to create a function that would take a for loop, iterate through the array 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then basically iterate 4 times, and if the first statement was contacts is first name and contacts has a property and that is all true, then return that property's values. Okay, else if it's got a first name but no property, return the name but no such property, and then no such contact if not even the first name is found. Now what I was doing was if and else if statements, and after a lot of research figured out that that's not the correct way to do this. And the reason is that you'll never iterate past 1 because there's a return statement in every one of these statements. So when a return statement gets triggered, it returns it back to the function, and the rest of the argument or the rest of the iteration is never triggered. So if we run this, we're getting Harry and like should return an array. So it does return some sort of array, and Akira address should return no such property. Right, so it's returning. But the first one it's hitting, which is Akira here, is the first I is 1. When I is 1, then it's automatically exiting, because it doesn't get to iterate through the other I's. So I looked and I asked around, and we figured out that I need to approach this differently. So I'm going to do an if statement. So I'm going to get rid of this, and we're now going to say if contacts of I, and we still iterate, is first name equals name. Okay, I didn't have the double equals either, and that got me the other night too, so it's just dumb. Anyway, my mistake. So if that's true, and if we're going to do another if statement, and if the contacts of I has own property. This checks if the property exists in the contacts array in the ith object, and if that property exists in the object, then both of these will be met as true. If true, then return the contacts ith property. If this isn't true, so if this first one's true, it'll fall within these brackets, then we'll return no such property. Okay, we're getting more ticks, good. The reason for this is that if it doesn't fall within these, so if I click on here you'll see they're highlighted. So if it doesn't fall within these two, if this is true, then return this. Otherwise, if it falls here and only this is true, then it has to return no such property. And then after that we can say return, because if neither of those things are true, then we have to assume that there's not even a contact. So we can say return no such contact. And that's in the for loop. I need to take this out of the for loop. Okay, so it needs to go here, and the reason is that it has to, after all these have iterated through, it would just say there's no such contact if none of these conditions are true, and that's it. Alright, so I'll just run you through that one more time. If none of these conditions are true, then we have to just return no such contact. Alright, let's go to the next one. Alright, generate random fractions. Okay. Random numbers are useful for creating random behavior, yes. Javascript has a math.random function that generates a random decimal value. Decimal value, not a whole value. Okay. Between 0 and not quite up to 1 exclusive. Thus, math.random can return 0 but never quite return 1. Like storing values with the equal operator, all function calls will be resolved before return execute. So we can return the value of math.random function. So math.random is a function. Change random function to return a random number. Alright, 76. So let's just have a look here. Math.random 76 0.29. So I wonder why do we have to put a number in there? I don't think you do. We'll have to come back to that and figure out why you could put a number in there. Anyway, alright, so if we want a random whole number, that's what we're looking for, then use math.random to generate a random decimal number. Multiply that decimal number by 20. use another function math.floor to round the number to its nearest whole number. Remember that math.random can never quite return 1, and because we're rounding down, it's impossible to actually get 20. This technique will give us a whole number between 0 and 19. Putting everything together, this is what our code looks like. Math.floor, math.random times 20. Let's take a random number, times by 20, and then round it to the nearest whole number. Okay. Fine. Use this technique to generate return a whole number between 0 and 9. So instead of 0 and 19, we're going to go for 0 and 9. Alright, so we'll say return math floor math random times 10 should give us one. Cool, so that gives us a random number. Generate a random whole number within a range. Okay, so say we wanted a number between 0 and 10. To do this, we'll define a minimum number min and a maximum number max. Here's the formula we use. Take a moment to read it and try to understand. Okay, so math.floor is rounding the whole number, so that's all the brackets. So we're saying take a random decimal number and times it by the max. So let's take 9 and 3 as examples. So the max is 9 minus 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7 plus the minimum is 3, so that's 10. So that'll give us a random number between 3 and 10. Well, it won't, because it'll round down, so it'll actually be between 3 and 9, which is the max. That must be why we've got plus 1. Alright, create a function called random range. It takes the range of min and max and returns a random number. It's greater or equal to my min and less than my max. Yeah, okay, so we just say math.floor. It's going to return a random number, and we can times that random number by the max or my max minus my min plus 1. And then that'll get plus my min. Let's just check that. So my max. So if we said, what we can do here is console.log, and we'll just put that into there. ASH is not. So it's going to give us a million fucking numbers, apparently. Perfect, got it right. So that is just to show you again there. That's the math floor, so it's rounding the number. We take a random number and then we times it by the maximum number to the minimum. So for example, 9 and 3. So 9 minus 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, plus the minimum is 3. Gives us 10, knowing we will never get 10, and it'll always be rounded down to 9, so it's 1 less because of that math random. number never generates 1 inclusive. Perfect. Use the parseInt function. The parseInt, P-A-R-S-E, not P-A-S-S, parse. Passes a string in and returns an integer. Oh, that's pretty cool. So variable a equals parseInt 007 returns 7. If the first character in the string can't be converted into a number, then it returns NaN. Okay. Use parseInt in the convert to integer function so that it converts the input string into an integer and returns it. So I assume we just go parseInt string. Return. You can return that function. Duh. That was not very smart. Alright. Use the parseInt function with Radix. So you can pass an integer function to a string, return an integer. Takes a second argument for the Radix, which specifies the base of the number in the string. The Radix can be an integer between 2 and 36. Function call looks like parseInt string Radix. There's an example. parseInt 112 or 112. It says that 11 is in the binary system or base 2. This example converts the string 11 to 3. So if you don't know binary numbers, it's probably worth just going to have a look at a couple of YouTube videos on that. I don't know. I'm excited to see when I might use this in the future. I've never had to use it before. Let's use parseInt to convert function. So we'll return a parseInt with the string converts a binary number, so base 2. And that's it. Alright, use the conditional ternary operator. The conditional operator, also called the ternary operator, can be used as a one-line if-else expression. The syntax is condition, question mark, statement if true, statement if false. Okay. Use a conditional operator in the equal chat. Check if two numbers are equal. The function will return either equal or not equal. Alright, so we'll return the condition, which is if A equals B. Then question mark, statement if true is return sorry, it's going to return it anyway, so we just say equal statement if false, that would be not equal. Seems pretty straightforward. Getting pretty close now, guys. Use multiple conditional ternary operators. Okay, so use multiple operators in the checksum function to check if a number is positive, negative, or 0. Okay, so we can return a expression which is a if number is greater than 0, then the expression will be positive, and if that's false, we would say or if a is less than 0, then you could say negative, and then you can say if a is, that right? So it's and if a equals 0, then we just say 0. We've got an issue here. Why is that? Take that away. Oh, this will be syntactical. If return if the number is a. Why am I using a? Num. If the number is greater than 0, then it's positive. Otherwise, if it is this, then it's negative. Why is it 0? Yep. Or if number equals 0, equals 0. Why is this not working? What's the example? Return a equals b. So for us it's a. Listen. Question mark, quote, doubles, expression, question mark. Oh, you don't have to say. Oh, you should do. Unknown expected token. I still have to put that in. No. Oh, so it's actually asking us to do it. So if number equals 0, then 0. If number equals 0, then the return value is 0, or if it's going to be or if it's less than 0, return negative, otherwise just return positive, so it hasn't met the other conditions. There you go, 98% done. Woohoo, we're gonna do it. Use recursion to create a countdown. In the previous challenge you learned how to use recursion to replace a for loop. Now let's look at a more complex function. Okay, we've defined a function called countdown with one parameter, n. The function should use recursion to return an array containing the integers n through 1 based on the nth parameter, or the n parameter. If the function is called with a number less than 1, the function should return an empty array. For example, calling n5 should return 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So first thing we can do is starts with an if. When you use recursion, it's just a if and then else. Okay, and the if is if it tells us here. If the number is less than 1, return empty array. So if the n is less than 1, return an empty array. Okay, and while it's not, then we're going to do return we'll create a variable called counter, which will be equal to 0. Actually, we can just equal that to the countdown with n minus 1 passed in, and then we can just say counter push n, and we may need to do a console.log. We need to return counter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Calling the function with n5 should return the array 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you remember back when we were working with arrays, there was push will push it to the end of the array. There's another one called unshift, which moves the item to the start of the array. And the reason we need to do that is, you'll see here, instead of pushing it to the end of the array, it pushes it to the start. So it's 10, 9. So when it got to 4 and it saw 5, it pushed it to the start of the array, and so on and so forth. Alright, I think this is the last one. Use recursion to create a range of numbers. Continuing from the previous challenge we provided you, we have a defined function called range of numbers with two parameters, a min and a max number by the look of it. The function should return an array of integers which begins with a number represented by the start number parameter and ends with a number represented by the end number. The starting number will always be less or equal to the ending number. Your function must use recursion, calling itself and no loops. Okay, so if start with a number represented by the end number, the starting number will always be less than or equal to. Your function must use recursion. Array of numbers between. Okay, so it's like if it gives us 3 and 9, it needs 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It also says down here range should return 4. Range of numbers 4 and 4. So if it's the same number, it'll just return that number. So start number plus start number equals the end number, then return end number in an array. Else it's going to have a variable for a recursion called, we'll call it counter again, and that's going to be equal to the range of numbers function, and we're going to pass in the start number and the end number -1 to do it again, iterate again, and then we can say count r dot push and we're going to push in the end number because that's now going to say on each iteration. So if it's 3 and 9, it's going to say 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And then it's going to return the counter, but I also want to see what it's going to do for us. If it, it did work. Oh, we're 100% complete. Fuck yeah. Alright. Let me just go back into this. Let me just check. So 5 and 10 is 5, 6. Oh man, that's fucking killer. That took us a while. I think it took us almost 8 hours to finish that. So, I just want to run something by you. So, you'll notice here we passed in 2 numbers, so 5 and 10 in this first one. 5 and 10, so you've got 10 here. 10 minus 1 is 9. So it's counting this way because the first one passed in is 10. Right, and it pushes that in here. And then it says -1 and run it again, which is 9. But why does it push it to, if we're using push, shouldn't it push it to the end of the array? I think that's because of the stack. I think it builds up the list is stack. And then it runs them all at once, and that's why this runs out like this. I'm going to look that up. Alright, so we are done. Awesome. So that's it. So we're now on to the ESX6 stuff. ES6 excuse me, stuff. So we've finished that. So we'll go do the ES6. I'll probably call that a day now. I'll finish off there and then we'll have the ES6 tomorrow night as its own lesson set or its own live stream. And then hopefully after that I'll be able to get through a few more quicker for you guys. So looking down, we got some projects happening later on. We got some algo scripting, object oriented stuff. Basic algorithms. I actually had a crack at a couple of these, yeah. And I got a couple of them out, but we'll go through all those together again. Then we've got some functional programming, intermediate algorithms and scripting. And then after that, we'll actually probably have this knocked over hopefully this week. That's my goal, is to finish this week. So what do we got? We should be able to get through ES6 in one stream, regular expressions in one stream, and debugging in one stream. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 more nights maybe. And maybe able to get through a couple together. Maybe debugging is only 12 tasks. Basic data structures. That's about arrays, and we're already pretty good with arrays, so we should be able to push through the array stuff pretty quick. Alright, cool. Well, thanks for tuning in. It was only a short one tonight, but I'm glad we got that all done. And yeah, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.